He sacrificed everything for a world that betrayed him. After 20 years, all he wanted was a normal life. But when he finally returned home, he realized Earth needed him again. 20 long years have passed since he was torn away from Earth and thrown into another world. Now, everything has led to this very moment. One final battle. One final enemy. If he can slay the last beast, the world will finally be saved. A massive sphere of blazing fire crashes into the battlefield, erupting with a deafening explosion. The ground splits apart beneath the overwhelming force, sending shockwaves across the land. Even after taking that devastating attack, the hero is still standing. The monster can't hide its disbelief. No wonder they call him a hero. Meanwhile, his companions are barely clinging to life. Hyun Seok isn't in much better shape himself. Exhausted and covered in wounds, he faces the beast once more. Another devastating blast rushes toward him, but instead of retreating, he meets it head-on. Their powers collide, scattering destructive energy across the battlefield and forcing everyone nearby to shield themselves. The demon glares at him with murderous intent. If Seok refuses to kneel, he'll rip him apart, piece by piece. This kingdom was built with the demon's own fangs and claws. Everything here belongs to him, and he refuses to let a mere human destroy it. As another attack comes flying in, Seok blocks what he can and narrowly dodges the rest. Tightening his grip around his spear, Seok quietly declares that it's time to end this battle. A terrifying aura erupts from his body, shaking the battlefield. His next strike shines like the final burst of a dying star. A blinding flash tears across the land, slicing through the earth as effortlessly as a scorching blade through butter. Hyuk immediately leaps away before launching himself straight at the demon. Their weapons collide over and over again, each impact shattering the dry ground beneath their feet. In a sudden counterattack, the demon slashes at Hyuk. Although Hyuk manages to block the fatal blow, the claw still cuts across his eye. The demon laughs confidently. Attacks at this level could never truly harm him. Twirling his spear with calm precision, Hyuk smirks. That's more than enough to crush the demon's pride. Moments later, the demon's crown slips from his head. His eyes widen as he looks down and sees Hyuk's spear buried deep within his body. Never in all his years had he imagined a human capable of standing against him. Hyuk reminds him once again, he isn't a man born into this world. The demon scoffs. Even at death's door, he refuses to believe Hyuk's words. It doesn't matter if he falls today. His body will become one with the land, and eventually, just as always, he will return. But then, something feels wrong. His body isn't regenerating. Instead, he feels something he has never experienced before. Erasure. Hyuk calmly tells him the reason. The black flames consuming his body are known as the paradox flame. Unlike ordinary fire that burns with oxygen, this flame feeds on abstract concepts instead. Throughout history, the demon always relied on resurrection. It became part of who he was. But not anymore, because the fuel feeding these flames is his very existence itself. The demon finally understands. This isn't another defeat he can recover from. This is truly the end. Even if the demon disappears forever, Hyuk knows the truth. He'll never be remembered as the hero who saved the world. The people he once called companions were never waiting for his victory. They were waiting for his death. But Hyuk figured that out long ago. His eyes turned toward the saintess first. She always claimed she loved him. Day after day she flirted with him and tried to win his heart. But behind that sweet smile was nothing but hatred. To her, he was never more than an outsider. Every affectionate gesture was carefully planned. When the demon was finally defeated, she wanted Hyuk to hesitate, just long enough for them to eliminate him. Judging by her silence, Hyuk realizes he was right all along. The others are no different. The knight accepted a priceless national treasure from the emperor in exchange for one task: kill the hero after the battle. The emperor feared that Hyuk's fame would one day threaten his throne. As for the mage, his hatred came from a different reason. Obsessed with experimenting on humans, he despised Hyuk for standing against slavery and his twisted research. None of this surprises Hyuk anymore. He has known about their betrayal for 5 long years. Even the demon can't understand him. With the overwhelming power Hyuk displayed, he could have destroyed the entire world instead of saving it. Why sacrifice everything for people who planned to betray him? Hyuk gives a simple answer. He only wanted to go home. 20 years earlier, back in 2005, Hyuk was nothing more than an ordinary 30-year-old office worker living on Earth. Everything changed when a mysterious being known as the Goddess appeared before him and transported him into another world. At first, he welcomed the opportunity. He imagined an easy adventure where he'd receive overpowered abilities and live like the heroes from fantasy stories. But the instant he arrived, those dreams were shattered. This wasn't that kind of world. He searched endlessly for a way back to Earth, trying every possibility he could think of. In the end, there was only one path left: defeat the monsters and save the world. So, for the next 20 years, Hyuk devoted every moment of his life to becoming stronger. Day after day, battle after battle, he fought against monsters with only one goal in mind: returning home. During one mission, he rescued a young child from a village devastated by monsters. But when he reached the city gates, the guards refused to let them enter. To them, the injured child was simply a waste of precious medicine. That was the kind of world Hyuk had been summoned to, a place where the wounded were abandoned without hesitation. And that wasn't even the worst part. Medical knowledge was centuries behind what he knew on Earth. Simple infections often led to amputations, while the few skilled healers were already deployed to the front lines, leaving civilians with almost no hope of treatment. As Hyuk carried the wounded child through the streets, a group of priests suddenly blocked his path. They questioned how a child taken by monsters could possibly have survived. One of the nuns stepped forward and declared that the child must have been possessed by a demon. Since they were already performing several exorcisms, she insisted they should cleanse him immediately. More than the monsters. This is what Hyuk hated most. People who had abandoned every trace of humanity, hiding their cruelty behind hollow excuses. After surviving 20 years in that merciless world, he finally accomplished the impossible. The final monster had fallen, and the world was saved. At last, it was over. The knight slowly walks toward him, admitting he's almost relieved Hyuk learned the truth. No matter what happened today, they could never allow him to leave alive. Hyuk simply shrugs. He doesn't care anymore. He despised this world from the very beginning. Even so, the knight can't bring himself to attack. Hyuk had suffered enough injuries to kill any ordinary person, yet the overwhelming aura surrounding him hadn't weakened at all. Even now, he remained terrifyingly powerful. Hyuk takes a deep breath before shouting into the heavens. "Goddess, I've completed the mission you gave me, so it's time you keep your promise." Suddenly, the pitch-black sky begins to crack apart. Brilliant holy light pours through the fractures as a divine figure slowly descends from above. The goddess herself appears before everyone, praising Hyuk for enduring 20 years of hardship and defeating the world's final monster. Hyuk immediately points toward her, reminding her of their agreement. Once the mission was complete, she promised to preserve his memories, his experiences, even his soul, and return him to Earth. The goddess smiles softly before asking a strange question. Does he truly hate this world, even after gaining enough power to threaten someone like her? If he chooses to return, every achievement, every title, and every ounce of power he earned here will become meaningless. Hyuk tells her to stop pretending. Deep down, she's simply relieved that he's leaving exactly as promised. After a brief silence, the goddess admits the truth. This world no longer has any need for a monster like him. Still, she asks if he'll really have no regrets. Hyuk lets his spear fall to the ground. There's only one thing he has ever wanted: to go home. Looking down at his scarred, calloused hands, Hyuk quietly realizes that this nightmare is finally coming to an end. A pillar of radiant light surrounds his body. The goddess reveals one final truth. His original body on Earth died long ago, meaning he can't return to it. Instead, he'll awaken inside a new body. Hyuk asks whose body it is. The goddess refuses to explain. She only says that its owner was destined for a miserable fate, but she's certain Hyuk will survive whatever awaits him. Hyuk couldn't care less. Any life on Earth would be better than the living hell he had endured for the last 20 years. His vision slowly fades, and moments later, his eyes open once again. Above him is the clean white ceiling of a modern room. The year is 2025, and Hyuk has awakened inside the body of an ordinary civilian named Hyun Seok. Sitting up, he lets out a deep breath. At least he'll never have to see those traitors again. But when he notices a nearby mirror, he instinctively walks toward it. Staring back at him is an unfamiliar face. It almost doesn't feel real. He's finally back on Earth. He rushes to the sink, splashes water onto his face, and smiles. Clean, crystal clear water. Something he hadn't seen in 20 years. Then he presses a button on the stove, watching a flame instantly appear. No more gathering firewood. No more sleeping beside campfires just to survive. But then, a familiar aroma drifts through the room. Fried chicken! He carefully picks it up as if it were a priceless treasure before taking his first bite. The moment the flavor hits his tongue, his entire body trembles with joy. This is what real food tastes like. Tears stream down his face as 20 years of suffering finally catch up to him. At long last, he can finally live an ordinary life. Hyuk had convinced himself that no matter what awaited him on Earth, he could adapt. But would that really be true? Hyun Seok takes a moment to enjoy the little things he had missed for 20 long years. Hot water flows instantly from the shower. Cool air pours from the air conditioner with the press of a button. Above him stretches a bright blue sky, untouched by war or despair. Compared to that cruel fantasy world, Earth feels like paradise. At this point, he swears he'll never watch another Isekai story again. Since it's already 2025, technology must have advanced quite a bit. Maybe it's finally time to relax and play a few games. But before he can even finish the thought, a horrifying monster suddenly smashes against his apartment window. Hyun Seok stumbles backward, falling flat onto the floor in complete disbelief. At that exact moment, an emergency announcement echoes throughout the apartment complex. Attention all residents, a corrosion rift has been detected within the complex. Corrosion rift? The announcement continues, ordering everyone to evacuate to the underground shelter immediately. Absolutely no idea what's happening. Before he can process any of it, several more monsters appear outside, violently slamming against the glass until cracks begin spreading across the window. Without wasting another second, Hyun Seok turns and runs. The creatures chase him relentlessly as questions race through his mind. What are these monsters? And what happened to his peaceful Earth? After a desperate escape, he finally manages to shake them off by hanging from the outside of a window. He lets out a tired sigh. He definitely wasn't expecting to do this much cardio on his very first day back. As he rounds a corner, he suddenly spots a young boy holding nothing but a wooden stick. The boy seems just as shocked to see another person alive. Hyun Seok quickly asks why he isn't heading toward the shelter. The boy simply shrugs. He's looking for the monster because he wants to kill it. He even asks Hyun Seok if he'd like to come along. Completely dumbfounded, Hyun Seok has no choice but to follow. There was no way he could leave a child alone with monsters roaming around. As they walk, the boy begins explaining the current situation. To make sure he understands, Hyun Seok repeats it back. A corrosion rift is a mysterious gateway where monsters emerge into the world. No one knows why they appear or when they'll open. The boy nods, confirming that's exactly how it works. Hyun Seok can only lower his head in disbelief. He survived 20 years of hell just to return home, only to discover that Earth had become another battlefield. That damned goddess. She tricked him. The boy suddenly asks how Hyun Seok could possibly not know something so basic. Thinking quickly, Hyun Seok lies, saying he'd been living in America and had only recently returned to Korea. The boy stares at him in disbelief. How did he even manage that? According to him, the President of the United States had been impeached after secretly trying to send his own daughter to Korea. Hyun Seok has absolutely no idea what the kid is talking about. Deciding not to question it any further, he asks about the hunter the boy mentioned earlier. Who was she again? The boy's eyes immediately light up. Her name is Lee Soon. She's a member of the legendary Janabi Guild, ranked 10th strongest on the planet, and she's famous for wielding an enormous greatsword. At this very moment, she's in Chorwon battling another corrosion rift. Hyun Seok freezes when he hears that. A normal human fighting monsters? Just like the world he escaped from. But one question remains. How is something like this even possible on Earth? As the child continues explaining about hunters and their abilities, Hyun Seok suddenly stops talking. He feels something nearby. Slowly covering his mouth, he peeks around the corner. And there they are. Monsters. Not just one or two, there are 5 of them in sight. And judging by the presence he senses nearby, there's one more hiding. 6 monsters in total. Thankfully, this new body isn't ordinary. It seems to possess strength far beyond a normal human. Fighting multiple enemies at once is nothing new to him. After 20 years of battling monsters, this situation is familiar. But then he looks at the child. The real problem isn't the monsters, it's him. If he leaves this kid alone, there's no doubt he'll do something reckless. While trying to figure out what to do, something suddenly catches his attention. A strange energy flowing through the air. Mana, the same energy that existed in the other world. If mana still exists here, then he can fight. Suddenly, one of the monsters is engulfed in flames right before the eyes of the others. The enormous amount of mana he accumulated over 20 years is gone. But that doesn't matter, because the paradox flame wasn't just a technique, it was carved into his very soul. As long as mana exists in the atmosphere, he can still use it. Though the power feels much weaker than before, the flames aren't nearly as destructive as they used to be. Still, this should be more than enough. The child stares at him in complete shock. To him, Hyun Seok is incredible. At first, he was suspicious because Hyun Seok seemed completely unaware of hunters and monsters. But now, he must have some kind of unique skill. Suddenly, the child runs forward. Hyun Seok immediately panics. The kid explains that the official Hunter Academy YouTube channel said confirming a monster's defeat is extremely important. Hyun Seok tells him to stop. His ability doesn't deactivate until the target is completely dead. Before the monster rushing toward him can land its attack, Hyun Seok catches it with one hand. He casually admits he doesn't even know what YouTube is. But judging by this situation, maybe the kid should stop watching it. Of course, that advice probably won't work on someone obsessed with manhwa. Hyun Seok grabs the wooden stick the boy was carrying. The remaining monsters charge toward them, driven by their hunger for human flesh. But Hyun Seok doesn't move an inch. With the skill of someone who spent 20 years fighting for survival, he swings the simple piece of wood like a legendary weapon. One strike, another, then another. Each monster falls before it can even touch him. The child can barely believe what he's seeing. This is impossible. Is this guy secretly a hunter? Hyun Seok can only curse his own fate. Even after everything he suffered, even after sacrificing 20 years just to return home and finally rest, he's still surrounded by monsters and the smell of blood. If this is what Earth has become, then how different is it from that other world? The two eventually reach the bunker entrance while casually talking about random things. The moment they arrive, a woman suddenly notices the child. His mother immediately rushes over and embraces him. Seeing Hyun Seok beside him, she realizes he must have saved her son. With tears in her eyes, she sincerely thanks him from the bottom of her heart. Hyun Seok simply says it was nothing. But as he looks closer at their clothes and appearance, this kid wasn't just some ordinary child. Judging by his mother's expensive clothing and elegant appearance, he was probably some kind of wealthy young master, which explains why he had so much confidence running around chasing monsters with nothing but a stick. Without warning, the entire bunker begins shaking violently. The walls tremble as a massive impact crashes against the reinforced structure. Then, a giant claw bursts through the thick metal barrier. The beast tears the wall apart like it's nothing, stepping into the bunker with a terrifying grin. It looks around at the terrified civilians, almost excited to find so many fresh meals waiting for it. Everyone immediately breaks into chaos. People scream, people run, everyone desperately searches for a way to survive. The child grabs Hyun Seok and tells him to escape too. This monster isn't something they can defeat. But Hyun Seok doesn't even react. He doesn't hear the child's warning. Instead, one thought continues repeating in his mind. Was he really asking for too much? After everything he endured, after 20 years trapped in another world, all he wanted was to return home, to finally live peacefully in the world he missed so much. Was that really an impossible wish? Hyun Seok looks at the child and speaks. He notices that the boy comes from a wealthy family. So why become a hunter? Why risk his life fighting monsters? Couldn't he simply hide somewhere safe, enjoy his wealth, and live comfortably? He doesn't have to fight. The child's expression turns serious. He explains that he lost his father because of a monster. A corrosion rift appeared inside what everyone believed was a completely safe underground bunker. That's when he understood something important. There is no truly safe place on Earth anymore. Even if he's weak, even if monsters terrify him, he will still become the strongest hunter. He will eliminate every monster, and he will save the world. To Hyun Seok, the dream sounds ridiculous, maybe even impossible. But he smiles. The kid might really become an amazing hunter. Just not someone who can save the world. The child's mother tells them they need to leave immediately, but the boy refuses. Someone is still fighting. That person is still inside. Suddenly, a massive blast erupts behind them. The beast that was chasing everyone is engulfed in black flames. Hyun Seok stands there, completely unharmed. He looks at the burning monster. He has made his decision. I'll do it. Saving the world is a job for someone who has already done it before. Later, Hyun Seok thinks about his ridiculous situation. He was summoned to another world. He fought monsters for 20 years. He finally returned to Earth, only to discover that his peaceful new life was already being interrupted by another disaster. Thankfully, his first encounter wasn't a problem. His experience from the other world allowed him to survive. And he even promised that child he would save the world. But realistically, he hadn't actually done anything yet. Now he sits comfortably at home. A game finishes. Another victory. Too easy. He opens another can of soda and enjoys the moment. It's true, someone who has already saved a world should be capable of saving another one. But so what? He said those words with absolute confidence in front of everyone. He acted like a hero once again. But that feeling didn't last. The games he could only dream about in the other world, the endless food he never had access to, The simple pleasures he sacrificed 20 years for. They're all right here in front of him now. And for the first time in decades, Hyun Seok can finally enjoy life. Besides, saving the world isn't really his responsibility anymore. There are already hunters out there fighting monsters and protecting humanity. So, with that in mind, Hyun Seok decides to do what normal people do: order some food. But when he checks his money, he's completely broke. The severance pay he inherited from the previous owner of this body is finally gone. Hyun Seok's current body originally belonged to a logistics company employee. But after a devastating corrosion rift caused massive damage, the company collapsed, leaving him unemployed. Now that his savings have disappeared, Hyun Seok realizes he needs to find a job. Unfortunately, finding normal work is almost impossible. Because corrosion rifts continue appearing around the world, countless companies have gone bankrupt. The economy has been completely disrupted. But he still needs money to survive, so what kind of work can someone like him even do? Then, suddenly, an advertisement catches his attention. Hunter recruitment. Hyun Seok stares at the screen. Becoming a hunter? He can't deny it. He already has 20 years of experience in exactly that line of work. Meanwhile, at the Hunter Association, the atmosphere is lively. The hunter selection process is finally beginning. However, one candidate doesn't look impressed at all. To him, this entire test is just a formality. These days, anyone with a unique awakened ability can easily become a hunter. Everyone around him looks the same. Just ordinary people chasing fame with no real future. He wonders how long it will take before he becomes famous. Suddenly, his friend accidentally bumps into someone. He turns around to see who it was, but the person standing there isn't ordinary. It's one of Soin's bodyguards. They never expected to see her here. After all, Soin was supposed to be in Chorwon handling a corrosion rift. If she's here, that means the Janabi Guild must have sent her to scout for new talent. But who exactly are they looking for? A bodyguard hands Soin a tablet. On the screen is information about a Hunter Academy graduate named Han Sang-ha. Her awakened ability is electrokinesis. With that power, couldn't she simply generate electricity and charge batteries? One of the bodyguards immediately corrects her. She's not being recruited as a charger. She's being considered as a hunter. According to him, she's highly skilled with her ability. Someone like her could become a valuable asset. But Soin isn't completely convinced. Another bodyguard speaks up. Even if someone performs well inside a Hunter Academy, a real corrosion rift is completely different. Actual combat is unpredictable. Many talented academy students fail when they experience a real battlefield. Soin was about to say the exact same thing, so she rewards him with a piece of candy for explaining it so well. Training and actual combat are two completely different worlds. Students who only experienced controlled battles often struggle when facing real monsters. It takes time to adjust. Soin wonders if leaving for an entire week just for scouting is really necessary. But then, the first sparring match is about to begin. Regardless of the result, she is here to do her job. And maybe she'll discover someone truly interesting. The first candidate immediately catches her attention. A civilian. Someone who never graduated from a Hunter Academy, an unprecedented participant. Yet somehow, he has enough courage to stand on the same stage as everyone else. The mysterious civilian hunter candidate steps onto the stage. It's Hyun Seok. He still isn't completely used to hearing that name. After 20 years of being known as Hyuk, being called Hyun Seok feels strange. But if he wants to live in this world, he needs to accept it. From now on, he has to respond to that name. As his opponent steps onto the second stage, the announcer begins explaining the rules. Personal weapons brought from outside are forbidden. Any attack that could cause fatal injuries is strictly prohibited. Hyun Seok listens carefully. He made his decision. If he becomes a hunter, then his first responsibility is saving this world before it eventually collapses. But that's not the only reason. He also wants something simple: a comfortable life, good food, a peaceful existence. To achieve that, he needs to perform well in this selection. The announcer raises his voice. Begin! The moment the match starts, his opponent rushes forward. To him, this battle is already over. Hyun Seok can't even gather mana. This will be an effortless victory. A perfect opportunity to boost his reputation. After all, he is the undefeated Spearmaster of Hunter Academy. There is no way he can lose. The spear user charges forward with full confidence. But suddenly, Hyun Seok places his spear into the ground and disappears. The opponent's eyes widen. Where did he go? In the next instant, Hyun Seok appears behind him. He calmly observes his movements. You're pretty clumsy with a weapon you're supposedly undefeated with. Before the opponent can react, a single punch lands directly into his stomach. Then another strike follows, an uppercut straight to the chin. The so-called undefeated Spearmaster collapses immediately. Even Hyun Seok is slightly confused. He only used his fists because he thought using the spear might accidentally injure his opponent. But this guy is practically a beginner. Is this really the level of an average hunter? From the audience, Soin watches carefully. That movement, that speed, it wasn't normal. She quickly searches his information. His previous occupation was just an employee at a logistics company. Nothing about him suggests combat experience. One of her bodyguards points out another strange detail. Hyun Seok has no accumulated mana. To produce that level of physical power, someone should have built up mana over time. But if he truly has none, then maybe he just got lucky. Suddenly, another candy flies toward the bodyguard. A silent message from Soin. Stop talking. Swa considers another possibility. Maybe he's deliberately refusing to accumulate mana. But how is that even possible? Meanwhile, Hyun Seok feels uneasy. Showing off too much ability might attract unnecessary attention. So he decides to end the next match quickly. He approaches his frightened opponent, raises his fist. Don't worry, I won't hit you somewhere fatal. With that, the match ends. Hyun Seok wins again. Around Swa, several scouts begin discussing him loudly. Their conversation catches her attention. But while everyone else is distracted, Swa knows she needs to act. She needs to see what this rookie can truly do. She stands from her seat. Her destination? The association president. As Hyun Seok continues fighting, he begins noticing something. Everyone is weak. Far too weak. No matter how many opponents enter the stage, the result is always the same. What exactly are they teaching at Hunter Academy? After 20 years of fighting monsters from another world, these battles don't even feel like training. Will he really never find a worthy opponent? Finally, the next opponent is revealed. Han Sang-ah, the star candidate of this year's selection. The one person here with the highest mana output. Hyun Seok isn't disappointed. In fact, this is exactly what he wanted. At least, she might be different. Sang-ah looks at him calmly. To her, the difference is obvious. She has overwhelming mana. He has nothing. He may have reached this point through luck, but his luck ends here. Hyun Seok hears her statement and thinks to himself, that line sounds incredibly generic. Do they teach phrases like that at the academy too? Sang-ah studies him carefully. She assumes he doesn't possess a unique skill. After all, he has been relying only on physical attacks. But that doesn't mean she will underestimate him. Even without knowing his ability, she will give this battle everything she has. Hyun Seok does have a unique skill. The problem is, if he actually uses it, Sang-ah might not survive. Taking a sharp breath, Sang-ah channels her power into her blade. Lightning-like energy surges through the weapon. In an instant, she swings. A blinding slash tears across the entire battlefield at incredible speed. But Hyun Seok simply jumps over it. Sang-ah's eyes widen. He avoided it? Instead of being impressed by the attack itself, Hyun Seok studies the technique. By sending an electric current through the blade's scabbard, she created a magnetic force. That magnetic field accelerated her sword draw, turning the attack into a lightning-fast strike. He admits it. Among everyone he has faced today, she is by far the most skilled. But she made one major mistake. She didn't think before attacking. She focused entirely on speed. To make her sword move even faster, she created a magnetic path in the air, a straight line, a predictable route. No matter how fast or powerful the attack is, who would make an attack that obvious? Sang-ah grits her teeth. She tells him not to get arrogant. She can still defeat him without relying on that technique. She charges forward once again. Hyun Seok simply steps aside. Idiot. Sang-ah freezes. He already dodged her fastest attack, so why would he ever get hit by a slower one? She attacks again, but Hyun Seok notices even more flaws. Her technique lacks refinement, her movements are inefficient, and worst of all, she is forcing her body beyond its limit. She's desperately burning through mana to maintain her attacks. If she continues, her own body will eventually collapse. Suddenly, Hyun Seok appears directly in front of her. Let's stop here. He tells her that if it hurts too much, raise her left hand. Then he moves. A punch lands directly into her stomach. Before she can recover, a barrage of strikes follows, one after another. No wasted movement, no hesitation. Finally, Hyun Seok launches a final punch from across the arena, straight into her face. Sang-ah crashes to the ground. The entire audience falls silent. Nobody can believe what they just witnessed. Hyun Seok simply walks away while stretching his arms. She was definitely more skilled than the others, but to fall after those attacks, she must have depended too heavily on mana while neglecting basic physical training. Then suddenly, a sound. Sang-ah groans. Slowly, she raises her left hand. Hyun Seok smiles. She actually followed his instructions. Even after losing, she still raised her hand. Suddenly, someone rushes toward the announcer and whispers something. The announcer immediately receives new instructions. The tournament schedule has been changed. The winner will now take a short break, because shortly, he will have a special sparring match against an active hunter. By order of the association president, this match has been arranged immediately. The audience erupts with excitement. Soin's guards exchange looks. This changes everything. Hyun Seok, however, has no idea who his opponent is. The monitor showing the challenger is only visible to the audience. But judging from everyone's reaction, this person must be powerful. So another hunter has stepped forward to test him. It seems no matter what world he enters, things always end up the same. Someone always wants to measure his strength. Suddenly, a massive sword drags across the arena floor. The sound alone changes the atmosphere. A woman steps forward. She apologizes for arriving without warning, but apparently this was the only way to properly confirm his abilities. She introduces herself. The current stage was simply too small for him, so she wanted to personally spar with him. Of course, she understands if he refuses. Hyun Seok immediately knows who she is. The kid told him about her. Ranked number 10 in the entire world. But her reputation isn't the only thing impressive. Her aura, her confidence, her presence. This woman is a true hero, a genuine warrior. With this new body, defeating someone like her won't be easy. But instead of refusing, Hyun Seok smiles. He accepts, because honestly, he hasn't even used much energy today. This works out perfectly. His goal was to achieve the best possible result in this tournament, and facing the strongest opponent available is exactly what he wanted. More importantly, he finally gets to test something. How strong are the heroes of this world? The entire arena falls silent. Everyone watches with nervous anticipation as the duel finally begins. Without hesitation, Sion swings her massive greatsword downward. The gigantic blade crashes directly against Hyun Seok's spear. Holding on with everything he has, Hyun Seok feels the overwhelming force behind the attack. He can't help but wonder, how can someone with such a small frame possess this much power? Using all his strength, he redirects the blade and forces Sion to retreat. But Hyun Seok immediately realizes the problem. He is at a disadvantage. His speed has dropped dramatically compared to his old body. It's not just that Sion has no openings. His current body simply doesn't have the physical ability to take advantage of them. Sion looks at him calmly. She was hoping this fight would serve as a good warm-up after a long time without serious combat. But judging by his condition, he already looks exhausted. Still, she has to admit something. He has performed far better than expected. She thought he would last around 5 minutes, maybe 3. But somehow, he has been fighting for 30 straight minutes. Sion charges forward once again. She decides she'll go easier on him from now on. But Hyun Seok knows the truth. He is struggling. This body has almost no stored mana, and the surrounding environment contains very little mana as well. He didn't want to rely on his ability, but he has no choice anymore. Hyun Seok activates his true skill, Paradox Flame. Sion immediately notices something strange. She slams her greatsword into the ground before him. The force creates a massive shockwave, forcing Hyun Seok to dodge. But then, she notices something impossible. He isn't just moving differently. His body is burning. Hyun Seok thinks about his greatest ability, the Paradox Flame. The power he relied on countless times during his 20 years in the other world. Out of every technique he mastered, this is the one he trusts the most. Unlike ordinary fire, the black flame does not burn physical matter. His clothes remain completely untouched. Instead, each flame consumes an abstract concept chosen as its fuel. However, with his current output, he cannot burn concepts without a clear ignition point. Things like the self, memories, reason. Those are beyond his current limits. But there is one thing he can burn: fatigue. Hyun Seok launches himself forward once again. His strike carries the same force as his first attack. Seeing him push himself this far again, Sion increases her strength as well. But something bothers her. What exactly is happening? The mana around the arena keeps fluctuating. High, low, high again. But the arena settings haven't changed. Then, is Hyun Seok causing it? Just like normal fire releases heat when it burns matter, the Paradox Flame releases mana when it burns concepts. Hyun Seok uses mana to ignite the flame. Then, the Paradox Flame burns his fatigue and transforms it into more mana. A continuous cycle, an endless source of energy. This is his specialty. Sion raises her greatsword above her head. She crashes it into the ground. A massive wall of dust rises between them. But one question remains. How long can he continue? Inside his mind, Hyun Seok laughs. A person who refuses to let go and keeps dragging things into a battle of endurance, that's exactly the kind of fight he specializes in. He wonders if Sion has a preference for people who simply refuse to quit. Sion's expression becomes irritated. She absolutely hates people like that. But even Paradox Flame has a weakness. When you burn a tree, eventually only ashes remain. And ashes cannot burn again. The same principle applies to the Paradox Flame. Every concept it consumes leaves behind a residue. Once everything has been completely burned away, only then will the flame disappear. And so, the battle continues, for hours. 4 hours and 17 minutes later, the arena is completely exhausted. Hyun Seok lies on the ground, barely able to move. Sion stands above him, still holding her greatsword. She asks him one final time, does he really want to continue? Hyun Seok finally raises his hand. He admits defeat. The announcer immediately declares the match over. With Hyun Seok's surrender, the battle comes to an end. After the intense battle finally ends, Sion reaches into her jacket. Her guards immediately react. To them, this is no ordinary candy. It's something far more meaningful. Sion pulls out a lollipop and tosses it toward Hyun Seok. A reward for his incredible performance. Along with it, she includes her business card. Read it carefully. Even if they discuss everything later, she tells him one thing: he should definitely contact her. The hunter selection trials finally come to an end. As everyone leaves the arena, Hyun Seok thinks to himself, what exactly is Janabi? Most participants have already gone home. After all, their battle lasted a ridiculous 4 hours. Hyun Seok sits in the hallway, enjoying the lollipop Sion gave him. While eating, he checks his smartphone. His new hunter license has already been registered inside. The technology surprises him. Back in his previous life, they probably would have handed him a simple piece of paper. But this device can do far more. Hunter communities, used equipment markets, information networks. Everything is conveniently accessible. This world really has changed. While browsing through the options, someone suddenly catches his attention. A massive, muscular man approaches him. The man smiles and says, Hyun Seok looks even more impressive in person than he did on the broadcast. Hyun Seok looks him over. This guy is huge, at least 2 meters tall, maybe even more. He asks who he is. The man hands him a business card. Hunter Hyun of Taebaek. More specifically, Hyun Seok Hyun, a partner hunter from the Taebaek Guild. He says he'll keep things brief. He doesn't want to waste Hyun Seok's time. He wants him to join Taebaek, more specifically, his own team. If Hyun Seok gains enough experience under him, his talent will shine far brighter than what he showed in that arena. Hyun Seok studies his expression. He doesn't sense any hidden intentions. No deception, no manipulation. But he already has something else to handle. Because of what Sion told him, he has another appointment. So he can't give Hyun a definite answer yet. He takes the card and stores it. He'll think about it later. Hyun laughs. He never expected Hyun Seok to decide immediately. But he warns him, he should think carefully. Because he dislikes people who waste time or arrive late. With that, Hyun leaves. Hyun Seok watches him go and immediately makes his decision. Taebaek is definitely not happening. After some time passes, Hyun Seok takes out his phone. He calls Sion. He asks where they should meet. Sion answers. She's currently at a place called The Hut on the 2nd floor of the Hunter Association building. She'll send him the coordinates. Hyun Seok wonders what kind of place that is. When he reaches the location, he finds himself standing in front of a cafe with a very unusual name. A waiter welcomes him inside. Sion notices him and waves. Come, sit. Hyun Seok takes a seat. Sion immediately asks if something happened. Tells her that someone tried to recruit him into a guild. A very large man. A hunter named Hyun. From the Taebaek Guild. Sion laughs when she hears about Hyun's offer. Since someone like Hyun personally showed interest in Hyun Seok, most guilds won't even dare compete. Hyun Seok wonders if the same applies to Janabi. But Sion immediately clarifies, she isn't trying to recruit him. In fact, she wants him to work independently, as a freelancer. Hyun Seok blinks. A hunter doesn't need to join a guild? He didn't even know that was possible. Sion assumes Hyun was probably planning to offer him a junior position. Hyun Seok asks what exactly a junior position means, and if that's the case, what about becoming a freelancer? Sion suddenly remembers something. Right, Hyun Seok isn't a Hunter Academy graduate. She forgot he doesn't know the basics. Sion begins explaining how guild structures work. Hunters affiliated with guilds are usually divided into 3 ranks: junior hunters, senior hunters, and partner hunters. Junior and senior hunters belong to teams led by partner hunters. Basically, they are like salaried employees. Partner hunters work differently. Instead of receiving a normal salary, they own significant shares within the guild. Their income comes from the profits the guild generates. Hyun Seok listens carefully. So, basically, it's like a law firm. Son nods. It's actually pretty similar. She heard the first hunter who created the guild system used law firms as inspiration. However, joining a guild isn't the only path. A hunter doesn't have to start as a junior, rise to senior, and eventually become a partner. Hyun Seok understands. So, if he becomes famous and achieves impressive results, guilds will naturally come looking for him. Son confirms that's exactly how it works. Then she hands him another candy. Hyun Seok stares at it. Why does she keep giving him candy? Still, he doesn't refuse. Hyun Seok admits that as a new hunter with no connections or experience, getting good requests will probably be difficult. Son tells him she'll help, free of charge. But Hyun Seok becomes cautious. Why? Why would she help him this much? Son finally reveals her reason. Someday, when Hyun Seok becomes famous enough that every guild wants him, she wants him to remember one thing: that there was once a guild called Janabi. In other words, she's creating a debt, a favor he won't forget. Son pulls out one folder from the many documents she carries. She places it on the table. Whether he accepts it or not, the choice is his. Hyun Seok opens the folder. Son tells him it's a request from Incheon City. There is an area called Gyeongdong Island. 2 years ago, a corrosion rift appeared there. An attempt was made to eliminate it, but the operation failed. Hyun Seok looks at the documents. So his job is simple? Go there and destroy the corrosion rift? Son shakes her head. Not exactly. His mission is to patrol the island, search for any additional corrosion rifts that may appear, and eliminate them if necessary. A dangerous monitoring assignment. Hyun Seok checks the details. The mission begins in 1 month. Payment: 5 million won up front, 15 million won after completion. He throws the papers back onto the table. For a job where he could literally die, the reward isn't exactly impressive. Son knows how he feels. It does seem unfair. But instead of complaining, he should use that frustration. Train, grow stronger, become famous. Once that happens, money will naturally follow, more than he could ever spend. So, what's his answer? Later, after Son leaves in her car, she makes a phone call. The person on the other end asks about Hyun Seok. Son responds, he's just a civilian, but he managed to clear a mandatory weapons tournament against her own brother.